So I was working last night and my battery from cutting the frame notches, my battery had gone dead. I thought I plugged it in, but I guess I didn't get the plug in all the way. But I brought it in here and I set it up and I got this cross member installed. It's pretty straightforward. You just have to take out the 3 bottom bolts and 2 upper bolts. The frame has to be opened up to get it in, so I had to remove that rear cross member, spread it out, get it in there, and then line up the bolts, get them in. I also got these front boxes in, the front boxing plates, so I put those in, and then I've got that tubular cross member that goes in with them. They bolt into it, so I'm going to go ahead and get that set up and get this rear suspension set up. I've got the upper coil over mounts already installed, so we're going to get that done and then go from there. Also, while I was working last night after the battery went dead, I went ahead and put the cab mounts on. Those again are available on Tinworks site. They're new, so I've got those installed. Fit like a glove, just like everything else. So I'm going to finish setting up this rear suspension and get the back wheels or the rear end in, and then I'm going to move to setting up the front suspension. I'll have a roller, and then I'm going to be looking at running brake lines and fuel lines, and then once I get all that set up, I'll be taking it apart and getting it blasted and primed. Stay tuned. Alright, so before I tighten up these cross members, I want to make sure that the frame is square. So I measured from this bolt back to the back of the frame, and from this one back to the back of the frame, and make sure that they're the same distance. And then I also measured 2 holes in the back, and these are all good. So if I get the same cross on those 2, from this bolt to that corner and that bolt to this, then the frame should be square in the back, and then I'll find 2 reference points in the front and do the same thing once I do that. But I haven't tightened down the rear cross member or the one with the Panhard bar mount on it. I wanted to get the frame square first. So about the best way that I can think to square it up is to use a ratchet strap diagonally. Just measuring that corner needs to come this way. So I figure if I do a diagonal ratchet strap over to here somewhere and put some tension on it, it'll tweak it and get it where it needs to go, and then I can tighten up some of these bolts and lock it in place. So it will be coming apart again eventually, but I figure if I get it straight now while I'm doing stuff, at least I'll know where it goes with doing this. So let's see what we can do to get this thing straightened up or tweaked. So I put bolts in here and I got the flats facing each other. So this one is 76 1/4, and this is 75 1/2. That seems to be pulling a little bit better than what I had back here. So let's see if they got me where I need to be. Okay, so I am at 75 7/8 right there. And 75 7/8 right there. So I think that has got me squared. I'll check it again, and then I'm going to snug down some of these bolts just to be on the safe side. Trying not to bump anything as I've got it squared up. I want it to stay squared up. These frame, the C-notches here, the top there's a little bit of a gap, so I'm doing all of my tensioning on the bottoms first. Once they're tensioned on the bottoms, then I'll go back and tighten up the tops. So by doing that, I'm going to stay pretty consistent with all of this. We're set. Alright, so let's finish tightening these down. Like I said, this one down here, the one in the center, over the Panhard bar mount, has to be done. You can't put it in straight from the inside or from the outside because of the way the Panhard bar mount is made. There's just not enough clearance for it to fit in. The head of the bolt's just a hair too, or the length of the bolt's just a hair too long. Like I said, I'll probably go get a shorter grade 8 bolt just for that hole whenever I do final assembly, just to stay consistent and have them all going in from outside in. So, one last measurement, make sure we're still square, and we'll put the tubular control or cross member in, and then start on the frame stiffener. good. Alright. So, just like with the frame stiffener setup on these things, these have to be somewhat movable when you put the cross member in. So, the frame stiffeners, you got the boxing plates that go in on both sides. They need to stay somewhat loose until you get the cross member in the front, so that they can slide in and out as necessary to mount up. And again, just like everything else, I went to the hardware store and got non-self-locking nuts. Tractor Supply is great, at least mine is. They have bolts in bulk, so you can get all the bolts and you just pay by the pound of how many bolts you get. Let's see. Grab that wheel, you gotta slide it that way just a hair. Okay, that's good. On these trailing arms, there's little cap things that go on here that the coilovers mount to. And the one on this side also has the Panhard bar mount welded to it. So I'm not tightening the nose up. I'm going to get out the coilovers and get them set up. once you get the bushings, they'll go in the bearing, and then we'll set it in here. Goes through. Have a washer. Backside. And a nut. I'm setting them up. And I know that this is just temporary so that the adjustment screws to the back, and even whenever I do it for good, they'll be set up like that so that I can get in there and adjust those if necessary. That's that. So now I just need to jack up the rear end and put those bottom bolts in. So, the only other thing left to do is the Panhard bar or track bar, whatever you want to call it. It's got these little machine spacers that go in there to center up the ball. And on these things, you want them as level as you can get them. So for now, I'm going to set this one to the center. That going with 20-inch wheel is going to be setting about the height that it is with these on it. So the height will be about correct like that. So on its rear suspension. So I'm going to jack it up, the thing, take the shocks loose just to see how the travel goes on that rear end. So let's take this thing up, just see how it travel works. That is sitting all the way as low as it'll go. Here we go. Tinworks rear coilover suspension kit installed. So I've got the frame stiffener in it. These Heims joints, these huge Heims joints fit so snug in there. They're perfect with the spacers and everything. So the trailing arms have brackets for parking brake cables if you go that route. This is where, if you were doing a coil spring, it would mount, because the hole is right here. So if you were doing coil spring or an airbag, that's where that would go. That's with the C-notch installed. It's got these hats, or these brackets that go between the trailing arm and the rear end. There is a left and a right. So as you can see, the one on the right hand side has the bracket welded to it for the Panhard bar. There's the two brackets. There's two brackets for mounting the coil spring on it, and there's a little bit of adjustment on it, or the coil over shock. And then this cross member that goes in here has the other end of the Panhard bar mounting. There's the other one. And then it's got these coilover mounts. So that's the setup. So just like everything else, beautiful welds. The craftsmanship from Tinworks is always phenomenal. I'm very happy with everything that I've gotten from them, and that's pretty much it. So the only issue that I saw with it was this top plate on the C-notch kit was a little bit higher than it needed to be. I contemplated cutting these welds and bolting it down and then retacking it and welding it up, but I can't weld as good as the guys at Tinworks do, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, and it's all good. So next I'm going to be installing the front suspension yet again, and then that's where we're going to be at. I hope to order a fuel tank here pretty soon and get fuel lines and brake lines and get all that stuff routed. And then once I get all that done, I did order a battery box from GSI. So here's the battery box, and my intentions are eventually to have the battery mounted somewhere in this area underneath the truck so that it's clean. Don't yet know. I'm gonna wait until I get the cab. I'm hoping to get a set of doors here pretty soon, and then the cab will be going off to get acid dipped and get all the rust removed, and then I will be starting on that. But until then, I'm just going to be working on marking all the holes that I need to weld up on the frame so that I can get it nice and clean. A lot of these holes that are here, that one there, I plan on welding up a majority of those. I may leave this one open, because if I mount the battery box on this side, then I can run my positive battery cable through there, and then my negative battery cable I will just ground to the frame and then have everything grounded off the frame. So we will see. But here we go.